to enjoy your time here and find peace in the stories we tell. If you liked the story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to support the channel. Next month is my coming-of-age ceremony. Yet my mother brought home a young lady and declared that she was her true flesh and blood daughter. I quietly packed my clothes, sorted my belongings, then knelt and bowed in farewell. Mother spoke softly. Our Wen family has been a prominent scholarly clan for generations. What harm is there in raising one more daughter? I glanced at the woman standing awkwardly at the foot of the steps, her hands and feet fumbling in unease, then shook my head lightly. Her daughter has been returned to you. As for her daughter, me, you should return me to her as well. I learned I was not the true daughter of the Wen family on the very day I was still fretting over what birthday gift to choose for mother. My fourth and fifth younger sisters, who had always avoided me like snakes and scorpions, broke their usual that day and entered my courtyard together. Fifth sister, with her usual gentle and obedient nature, simply lowered her head and called, "Eldest sister." Fourth sister promptly covered her mouth with a silk handkerchief and chuckled softly. Fifth sister, "Oh, fifth sister, have you gone foolish? Is she still the eldest sister anymore?" Though I didn't fully understand her meaning, I merely frowned slightly and answered slowly, "Whether I am or not is for mother to decide. There's no need for outsiders to meddle. It seems someone's good days are coming to an end." Fourth sister stroked her freshly dyed crimson nails and deliberately drawled, "Occupying the magpie's nest for so many years, it's about time to return it to the rightful owner, eldest sister." Fifth sister timidly tugged at her sleeve and whispered a reminder. "Mother hates gossip and spreading rumors the most. Why do you still act so boldly every day? She's no longer the true heiress anymore. What are you afraid of?" Before the words had even faded, Nanny Zhao from mother's courtyard lifted the curtain and stepped inside, her voice lowering. "Fourth young miss, watch your words." Fourth sister's face instantly turned deathly pale. She dragged fifth sister away in a hurry. Nanny Zhao turned to me, a profound emotion swirling in the depths of her eyes that I could not decipher. "Young miss, madam and master are waiting for you in the front hall." "Nanny, is what fourth sister said true?" I asked softly. "Young miss will understand once you arrive." Her expression gave me the answer. I adjusted my sleeves and followed her through the familiar corridor. In the main hall, mother was holding the hand of a young lady, her brows and eyes brimming with a tenderness I had never witnessed before. Below them stood a woman. As I passed, I caught the gleam of tears filling her eyes when she looked at me. "Mother." I bowed slightly in greeting. Mother released the young lady's hand, dabbed her tears with a handkerchief, then rose and walked toward me. She took my hand, lips moving as though she wanted to speak, yet in the end only let out a long sigh. Father, seated at the side, spoke first. "Jiang Yu, you are not the daughter of the Wen family. That woman over there is your true birth mother." Only then did I truly look at the woman. Though her clothes were not silk or brocade, they were clean and tidy. The patterns along the hem had clearly been embroidered by hand, the stitches a little coarse. I then turned my gaze to the young lady beside her, her eyes clear and bright as she looked at me. Her attire was simple, yet exquisitely tailored. "My child." The woman suddenly choked, pressing her handkerchief to the corner of her eye. "I am your real mother." Mother leaned forward slightly, shielding me, her voice gentle as she explained everything. It turned out that the year she gave birth, a great flood had struck. Both families had sought refuge in a dilapidated temple. In the chaos and panic, they had mistakenly embraced the wrong infants. Today, an old servant got drunk and let the secret slip. The old affair, long buried like silt at the bottom of a lake, suddenly floated to the surface. "Your father has investigated the matter thoroughly," Mother said, tears glistening in her eyes. "Jiang Yu, in my heart you will forever be my daughter." "Mother." I lowered my head, my throat tightening. Even though I had mentally prepared myself, it was still difficult to accept in an instant. The Wen family has been a prominent scholarly clan for generations. Raising one more daughter is hardly a burden. We can afford it. If you wish, you may still remain the eldest young miss of the Wen residence. I lifted my eyes toward my birth mother. She stood there, both hands clutching the hem of her clothes, her gaze overflowing with hope. Then I looked back at mother. Beneath that dignified, graceful face lay the calm of someone who had already arranged everything in advance. I took half a step back and performed a solemn, full bow. "Mother, her daughter has been returned to you. As for her daughter, it is time for her to return home as well." Upon hearing my words, both father and mother frowned. Foolish girl. Father thundered in a deep voice. I understood exactly what those two words carried. 15 years of painstaking cultivation. The marriage alliance with the Marquis's estate that had been planned to be settled after next month's coming-of-age ceremony. Every arrangement had suddenly branched off because of this unforeseen twist. In father's eyes, I had ultimately been nothing more than a meticulously carved treasure, ready to be put to use. Amid the heavy silence that fell over them, I slowly knelt and kowtowed with solemn respect. Your daughter thanks father and mother for 15 years of nurturing and education. When I returned to my small courtyard, Nanny was already waiting at the gate. I packed only my daily necessities, preparing to leave. Nanny gripped my wrist tightly, tears falling like beads from a broken string. Young miss, take all these jewels and fine clothes with you. Without them, how will you live from now on, Nanny? I gently placed her hand against my cheek. Those things belong to the young miss of the Wen residence, not to me. Seeing her eyes red from crying, I softened my voice. The new young lady who just arrived has a simple and pure temperament. In the future, please watch over her more, Nanny, and don't let her suffer any grievances. Young miss? Nanny hesitated. If the eldest young master were still in the residence, he would never allow you to leave like this. Eldest brother, I clutched the warm, smooth jade pendant in my palm tightly, as though I could still feel the heat from the day he had placed it there. He understands me best, he will surely understand. Nanny, I'm leaving now. Perhaps because I had been born in that temple that year, mother had never been overly close to me. From childhood, it was Nanny who had raised me, so the affection between us naturally ran deeper. My luggage was light, only a few simple outfits. Nanny insisted on stuffing 2 small pieces of silver inside. This time I did not refuse. The moment I stepped out of the courtyard, sure enough, 4th sister and 5th sister were waiting behind the folding screen. Oh my, isn't this our esteemed eldest sister? 4th sister covered her mouth and laughed softly. Look at my terrible memory. What should we call her now? I simply looked at her in silence, offering no reply, yet the glee in her eyes nearly spilled over. The eldest sister who had kept her suppressed for so many years had finally tumbled from her lofty clouds. 5th sister suddenly stepped forward half a pace, her voice barely above a whisper. Eldest sister, take care on the road. 4th sister and I were born of the same mother, yet our temperaments could not be more different. I nodded lightly to her. In this residence, perhaps that small sliver of pure goodwill was the only thing that remained genuine. The vermilion gate behind me slowly swung shut. At the stone steps below, my birth mother stood awkwardly, both hands continuously twisting the hem of her clothes. The moment she saw me emerge, she hurried forward. Let me carry the luggage for you, child. No need. It's very light. I answered softly. She looked a little crestfallen, her hand hovering in mid-air before slowly withdrawing. When she turned, her shoulders slumped slightly. When I first came to this residence years ago, the Wen family's carriage had brought me. Now I had to walk to the street entrance to hire one myself. After a few steps, she tilted her face and said, Our family cannot compare to those high-gate great households. Your father and I manage a small family shop in the city, selling all kinds of noodles. She glanced at me, searching. Do you look down on our poor home? As long as there is a roof over my head and warm food in my belly, it is enough. I smiled. She froze for a moment, then suddenly beamed with radiant joy. Then that's not so bad. Although our family isn't wealthy, we will never let you go without hot rice and warm soup. On the way to hire the carriage, her words gradually grew more abundant. Your father's surname is Sun. You also have an elder brother who is currently traveling north and south with an armed escort agency. I already sent word to him. The shop sat at the corner of the Western Market, storefront in front, living quarters in back. There was even a plum tree in the courtyard. When the season came, its fragrance filled the air. When we arrived, it was a modest little courtyard. Stepping inside revealed the main hall, the kitchen to the west, and 3 connected bedrooms to the east. She stood behind me, a touch uneasy, waiting until I had finished looking around before gently tugging my sleeve. You. She tried calling, then pointed to the middle room. This used to be Mengxia's room. It hasn't been tidied yet. You rest here for now. Mother will clean it up nicely for you tomorrow. The room was not large. On the bed lay a sky blue quilt embroidered with a few simple sprays of flowers and grass. White bed curtains were neatly tied on both sides with cloth ribbons. By the window sat an old wooden table holding a bronze mirror, a small wooden jewelry box, and a vase of freshly picked wildflowers. Everything was arranged with neat, meticulous care. I knew that young lady must have been cherished and protected by the family. I gently tugged her sleeve. "Thank you, mother. This is already very good." The instant the word, "mother," left my lips, tears unexpectedly rolled down her cheeks. I paused, then silently offered her my own handkerchief. "Yoo." She wiped her tears while hurriedly explaining. "Your father is usually busy at the shop and hasn't had time to return today. Don't overthink it." Her words caught me off guard. For a moment I didn't know how to respond, so I simply nodded. Seeing me silent, she said nothing more, only softening her voice. "Rest for a while. I'll call you once dinner is ready." With that, she gently closed the door. The room fell quiet. I sat on the edge of the bed, gently tracing the dense stitches on the quilt. Suddenly turning my head, I noticed a cloth tiger lying face down beside the pillow, its 4 legs slightly worn. I once had a cloth tiger exactly like this one. On my 5th birthday, mother had given it to me. I had been so overjoyed that I hugged it day and night without letting go. Until one day she gently pulled it from my arms and handed it to the maid behind her. "Throw it away," she had said, looking down at me. "A daughter of the Wen family should not immerse herself in toys. You must study books, practice the zither, and practice calligraphy. A daughter of the Wen family begins her education at 3, learns music at 4, composes poetry at 5, and by 6 can already play Spring River Flower, Moonlight, on the zither." I couldn't help wondering whether had ever felt even the slightest reluctance toward me. If not, why had there been such disappointment in the depths of her eyes when I turned away? I lay down, gently hugging the cloth tiger to my chest. "Just sleep, and everything will be fine. From now on, I am Xianxia." I was awakened by unfamiliar noises in the courtyard. Opening my eyes, I saw the sky had already darkened completely. I lifted the blanket and rose. The 2 people who had been busy paused at the sound of my door. Mother wiped her hands and came closer. You're awake. When we were eating earlier, Mother called you several times, but you were sleeping so soundly I couldn't bear to wake you. The rice and soup are still warming in the kitchen. Come eat a little." "Thank you, Mother. What are the 2 of you doing?" I looked at the man standing behind her. That must be my real father. Father's movements stalled. He gave a soft grunt and continued pushing the millstone. Mother explained, "Your father's temperament has always been like this." She pulled me into the kitchen. 3 savory dishes, 1 soup, and gleaming white rice. I ate in silence. Just as I reached to clear the bowls and chopsticks, the bowl was gently taken from my hands. "Go rest. Your father and I still have work to finish. If you can't sleep, you can lend a hand." Mother noticed my rolled-up sleeves and no longer refused. She taught me how to pour the wheat into the millstone's opening. Father stood in front, pushing steadily. The creaking rhythm echoed through the night. The scent of grain mingled with the cool evening breeze and slowly spread. Until Mother said, "It's already the hour of shu. Go to sleep quickly." That night, I slept more deeply than I had in years. The moment the rooster crowed, I woke and lay listening to the sounds in the courtyard. I waited for my parents to rise before getting up with them. I followed Mother's example and added firewood to the stove. She glanced at me from time to time, eyes filled with heartache. "You don't need to do these chores." Before, when Xianxia was home, we never let her lift a finger. "Mother." I straightened a piece of firewood neatly. "I only want to become part of this family as quickly as possible." After breakfast, I followed her to the riverbank to wash clothes. From afar, several aunties called out. They looked me up and down. "Madam Sun, is this the daughter who was swapped at birth?" Mother answered easily, "Yes, we just brought the girl home." Hearing that, they grew even less restrained. Indeed, raised in a high, great household. Just look at that bearing. Even in coarse cloth she radiates nobility. Her hands and skin are as fair and tender as young scallions. I quietly withdrew my hands into my sleeves. "Madame Sun, I'm not being nosy." One auntie lowered her voice. "Wouldn't it be better to leave the girl there, to enjoy the blessings of wealth? She could help the family too. Your son isn't betrothed yet, right?" With a younger sister from such a background, matchmakers would swarm the door. I was about to speak when a clear voice cut in. "Thank you, aunties, for your concern." I looked up to see a young man standing by the riverbank. His coarse clothes were simple, sleeves neatly tied, figure tall and straight, eyes bright and clear. He walked quickly to Mother's side and smiled at the aunties. I am Sun Sairui. I will earn my marriage with my own 2 hands, and will not trouble my little sister to worry. The aunties fell into embarrassed silence and lowered their heads to their washing. The young man turned to me, his smile deepening to reveal even white teeth. I am your elder brother, Sairui. I received Mother's letter and rushed back overnight. He took the wooden basin from Mother's hands. Father said the 2 of you were here, so I came to fetch you. Just in time. Mother wiped her hands. Take your sister for a walk and help her learn the roads. Wes. He carried the basin ahead while I followed. Morning sunlight pierced the locust canopy, scattering shifting patches of light across his shoulders. Little sister. He suddenly turned, eyes curved in a smile. Though our family cannot compare to high-gate great households, we have enough porridge and rice to fill our stomachs, and the hearts here are warm. You can rest easy. In the Wen residence, I once had an elder brother too. From childhood he had been personally instructed by father. After beginning his formal schooling, he was sent into the palace as a study companion to the crown prince. In an entire month I might see him only once or twice. Each time he returned, he always hid a few novel little trinkets in his sleeves and secretly pressed them into my hands. Counting the days, he should return to the residence in a few more. I wondered whether, upon learning that this little sister of his had only been a false heiress, he would feel even the slightest sadness. As for my real elder brother, Sun Sairui, he seemed to harbor no knots at all about the 15 years I had been missing. He led me up the mountain behind the village and pointed to an ancient tree draped with countless prayer ribbons, a smile in his eyes. When I was little, every time I teased Xianxia she would run here. His voice was gentle. She would hug the trunk and mutter accusations. He stole my candy. He dirtied my new hair tie. Mountain wind rustled the leaves, setting the prayer ribbons swaying. Listening to those vivid little stories of the past, I couldn't help laughing along at the amusing parts. If I had not been swapped that year, that lively, warm childhood should have belonged to me as well. The years in the Wen residence, every moment had required careful observance of etiquette. A faint thread of envy rose in my heart. Jiang Yu. Elder brother suddenly turned, expression turning serious. Though Xianxia and I do not share blood, the bond we formed growing up is real. I will always regard her as my sister. My heart gave a small twist. I lifted my eyes to him. He immediately looked a little flustered and scratched his head. Your brother spoke clumsily. That's not what I meant. What I wanted to say is, even though we missed 15 years, in our hearts you are still just as important. He paused, eyes bright as morning stars. Your brother will make up for those missing years from now on. With that, he pulled a wooden comb from his chest and placed it gently in my palm. On the way here I saw you. You must have seen finer ones before. The tips of his ears flushed faintly. It's only a small token from Ka. An ordinary pure wood comb. But the handle is carved with several plum blossoms, layer upon layer, each petal full of life. I clutched the comb tightly, fingers tracing the warm grain. Thank you, elder brother. It's very beautiful. The days passed quietly. Without morning and evening greetings or endless rules of propriety, I often slept until sunlight flooded the windows. Every 2 or 3 days my parents would leave early for the shop. The house was quiet, yet never felt empty. That day I deliberately rose early and waited at the courtyard gate. Mother, today I'd like to go to the shop with you and father. Mother paused only a moment before smiling and waving me over. Come then. The shop stood near the North City gate, quite far from the city center. I glanced once toward the east, where the layered, curving roofs of the Wen residence nestled deep among the tiles, then followed Mother inside, lifting the curtain. The shop was larger than I had imagined. Storefront in front, courtyard behind, and 2 additional rooms connected at the side. My parents only used the front area. A long kitchen counter ran along the wall, 6 square tables filled the room, and 2 more tables stood just outside the door. Mother took items from her basket and arranged them neatly one by one. Father stood at the counter kneading dough. He looked up and asked, would you like a bowl of vegetarian noodles? Yes, please. I watched father divide the dough, roll it into balls, and pull the strands with practiced, flowing movements. The noodles dropped into boiling water, were lifted out moments later, placed into bowls of ready broth, and sprinkled with a handful of green scallions. A bowl of noodles appeared before me. Clear broth, white noodles, the fragrance of scallions wafting upward. It was exactly the right time for breakfast. Customers began arriving one after another. Father busied himself at the stove while mother greeted guests and collected coins, her laughter soft and gentle. The room filled with the sounds of slurping noodles and scattered chatter, the clink of bowls and chopsticks mingling with rising steam. In that moment, I felt the fullness of ordinary life. When the last customer left, I walked to Mother's side. Mother, from now on I want to come help at the shop every day. Her hands never stopped working, yet the corners of her eyes curved. Your father will be overjoyed. There's a small room in the back where I rest at noon. I'll tidy it for you. Father heard this and simply nodded. I'll leave the clearing of tables and dishes to you. Father, rest assured. I will polish everything until it shines. We looked at each other and smiled. Mother poked her head out from the rear courtyard. What are you two laughing about? A secret between father and me. I winked. The coming of age ceremony that day. I had not paid it much mind. I didn't know how common families celebrated it, nor had I given it much thought. Early that morning when I opened the door, Mother was already standing outside, holding a brand new outfit, the soft pink of lotus petals. Today is your birthday. Her voice was gentle. Let Mother comb your hair for you. Before the bronze mirror, she took the wooden comb and slowly drew it through each long strand of my hair. Her movements in pinning it up were a little clumsy, yet filled with utmost care. Softly she recited, "By the years ordained, by the moon's command, may the whole family be blessed, may virtue be cultivated, may longevity be granted, may blessings be received." Above were the solemn words of blessing spoken during the coming of age rite. Today, at this auspicious moment, you officially become an adult. Uphold your virtue, live with dignity and prudence, and may you enjoy longevity, good fortune, and lasting happiness. Once my hair was pinned, she fastened a simple silver hairpin. When I stepped outside, father and elder brother were already waiting in the courtyard. Each handed me a red envelope. Father spoke first. Our family's coming of age ceremony cannot compare to those of high-gate great households. This is the best heartfelt gift your parents and elder brother can give you. Mother continued, from today on you are a grown young lady. Mother only hopes you live a lifetime of peace, health, and joy, with a place to rest your heart. Elder brother looked at me, eyes shining. Say, Ka does not ask that everything in your life be perfect. I only hope you live with honor, have a path to walk, dreams to chase, and forever see the light that belongs to you alone. I pressed my lips tightly together, forcing the hot sting at the corners of my eyes back down, and nodded firmly. Yes. That afternoon brought a small unexpected interlude. Someone from the Wen residence arrived carrying a set of exquisite gold hairpins that sparkled with dazzling light. Young miss, madam instructed us to deliver these. The young servant bowed. I accepted the heavy box. Did madam leave any other instructions? None. He performed the salute and withdrew. I stared at the cold, golden ornaments in my hands for a long time without moving. Mother gently placed her hand on my shoulder. Madam Wen has a kind heart. In the end, she still remembers you. She paused, voice lowering. I wonder how Xianxia is faring over there. I closed the box and handed it to Mother to put away. After nearly a month of busy days at the shop, when Xianxia arrived, the morning rush had just ended and I was clearing tables when a clear young lady's voice rang out. Father, I'm here. Xianxia walked in with a bright, cheerful expression. Behind her followed a maid, none other than Qiu Shuang, who had once served me in the Wen residence. Qiu Shuang looked up, saw me, froze for a moment, then immediately bowed according to etiquette. Eldest young miss. I nodded lightly in return and continued wiping the tables clean. Why is elder sister here? Xianxia looked at me in surprise. I came to help father. I answered calmly, rinsing the cloth in the basin. He is my real father now. It is only natural that I help. Father poked his head out of the kitchen, looking a little awkward. Xianxia is here. Would you like a bowl of noodles? Yes, with extra scallions, please. She smiled sweetly in reply, yet her gaze remained fixed on me. I like father's noodles the most. Not wanting to disturb them, I finished wiping the tables and retreated to the rear courtyard. In the corner stood a plum tree. I pulled over a small stool and sat beneath its sparse branches. Wind rustled the leaves. May I call you elder sister? Xianxia's voice suddenly sounded beside me. She dragged another small stool over and sat close enough that I could catch the faint, familiar scent of the Wen residence's osmanthus soap on her. When I had returned to the Wen residence, I had once thought I would have an elder sister who cherished me. She rested her chin on her hand. When I was little, elder brother often teased me. I always wished I had an elder sister to protect me. I tilted my head and looked at her without answering. Elder sister. She called the title so naturally. Mother actually misses you very much. The wind seemed to still for a moment. From childhood, I grew up with father and mother in the village. I studied a few characters with the teacher, but those poetry books and classics only gave me headaches. She continued speaking on her own, fingers unconsciously twisting the edge of her sleeve. Mother looked at my handwriting and said it was like chicken scratches. She could only sigh. She told me that even when your hands were cracked from the cold, you still insisted on writing 100 large characters every day. She paused, voice softening. Fourth sister and fifth sister never liked me either. They always said I wasn't even worthy of a single strand of your hair. The shadows of plum branches swayed across the ground. Elder sister. She suddenly leaned closer, eyes bright and sparkling. Why don't you come back to the residence with me? Mother will be overjoyed to see you. I looked into those clear eyes. There was no probing, no calculation, only pure trust and expectation. She chattered on, recounting every trivial thing that had happened since her return to the Wen residence. I've decided. She suddenly stood, brushing off her skirt. Tonight I'm staying here. With my elder sister. She turned and called for Qiu Shuang, ordering her to return to the residence and report. Qiu Shuang looked troubled and said hesitantly, Young miss, Madam instructed that you must return early. What is there to fear? I am here. Xianxia patted her chest, looking every bit the responsible adult. Qiu Shuang glanced at me with visible unease, her eyes pleading silently. I understand. If you act willfully, young miss, in the end it's us lowly servants who bear the punishment. Xianxia, I said. Go back with her today. If you truly wish to stay, discuss it properly with Madam first. I'll still be here. There's no need to rush. The sparkle in her eyes faded in an instant. She pouted, but knowing she couldn't push further, she finally nodded. It's a promise then. I'll come find you another day. With the lively chatter suddenly gone from my side, the quiet felt strangely unfamiliar. There was once a time when fourth sister and fifth sister would also sit close beside me like this, affectionately calling me eldest sister. When did everything begin to change? It was that winter many years ago. Fifth sister suddenly came down with a high fever. Fourth sister cried in front of father and said, It's all my fault. I insisted on taking them to the river to watch the lantern festival. Yes, that night had led them there, but I clearly remembered fifth sister tugging at my sleeve first, eyes shining as she begged to see the river lanterns. I had wrapped them tightly in their fur cloaks, tucked warmers into their hands, and led them step by step. Yet after that night, an invisible estrangement quietly settled between us. Fourth sister began opposing me more and more with each passing day. It was only much later that I realized the concubines, in places I could not see, had slowly boiled away and crushed the warmth that once existed between us. In the end, Xianxia still came. I didn't know how she had persuaded mother, but not only did she bring several sets of clothes intending to stay for a few days, 2 unexpected people followed behind her. You. The 2 voices called out almost at the same time. I paused, my hands still covered in flour, and gently wiped them on my apron before smiling at the arrivals. One was the elder brother who had once been so close to me. The other was my former fiancé, Wei Chuming. Big brother, Chuming. Father had gone out to buy ingredients. I invited them to sit. Today the 2 of you are in luck. You'll be the first to taste the noodles I made. My hands moved skillfully. Kneading, rolling, pulling. The dough gradually stretched into even strands that slipped into the pot of boiling water. Steam rose, blurring my vision. Once the noodles were cooked, I scooped them out, sprinkled them with chopped green onions, and poured clear broth over them. A simple bowl of noodles was placed into an earthenware dish. Xianxia helped me carry the bowls to the table. The 4 of us sat around it, yet for a moment no one picked up their chopsticks. Try it, I said softly. See if it suits your taste. Big brother and Wei Chuming were the first to lift their chopsticks. They took a mouthful. They raised their eyes to look at me. Complicated emotions swirled in their gazes, pity, confusion, and a deep, unrateable darkness. Come back to the residence with me, Big brother said. You've never done heavy labor since you were young. Look, your hands have already developed blisters. His gaze lingered on the red mark on the back of my hand. I had accidentally touched the edge of the hot pot yesterday and burned myself. Wei Chuming immediately followed, his voice urgent yet low. Jiang Yu, our engagement is still valid. If you're willing, I will report to my parents and choose an auspicious date to marry you right away. I glanced at Xianxia, who was lowering her head to eat small bites of noodles, and shook my head. I am no longer the eldest young miss of the Wen family. The one engaged to you is Xianxia, not me. Zhang Yu. Wei Chuming stood up abruptly, his sleeve knocked over a pair of chopsticks. In this life, I will marry no one but you. Cough cough. Xianxia choked on her noodles, her face flushing red as she waved her hands frantically. Elder sister, he is your fiancé. How could I possibly covet him? All right. Big brother gently interrupted, picking up the chopsticks and setting them neatly again. The noodles are getting cold. Don't waste Jiayu's heartfelt effort. He picked up a mouthful of noodles and ate slowly. The skill is excellent. In the future, I must come often to bother you. As long as you come, I'll make them for you. Xianxia blinked curiously. Elder sister, why did you suddenly want to learn how to make noodles? I looked at the steam curling around the bowl. Because I like watching people eat their fill. In the past at the residence, I also learned how to make pastries from the nannies. But cooking for family and cooking for outsiders feel completely different. I smiled at myself. There were times I even daydreamed, if only I could open my own little restaurant one day. If Ewer opens a shop, I'll invest 500 taels as capital, Big Brother said with a smile in his eyes. I'll contribute 1,000 taels. Wei Chuming added in a low voice, glancing at him. I only managed to save 130 taels. Xianxia whispered, her cheeks pink. All for elder sister. The previous awkward atmosphere was instantly dispelled by her innocent words. I laughed. Good. I've remembered everything. No one is allowed to back out later. That night, Xianxia and I shared a small bed. Elder sister. She turned to face me, lowering her voice. Going back to the Wen residence, it's not as wonderful as I imagined. Sometimes I wish it was all just a dream. I listened to her in silence as she continued. I have to wake up at the hour of Si, pay morning respects at the hour of Mao, then attend classes. In the afternoon I practiced zither, and in the evening I painted. I barely lasted 3 days before I couldn't endure it anymore. In the darkness, she sighed softly. Fourth sister laughed at me, called me stupid, and even told father, causing me to kneel in the ancestral hall for 2 full hours. Most daughters of great families are like this. I said gently. One must still learn proper etiquette so as not to embarrass oneself before outsiders. They still laughed at me. Her voice grew even softer. The first time I attended a banquet with mother, I praised how sweet the fruit on the table was. They gathered together and said I was just a country bumpkin who had never tasted good things. If mother hadn't stopped me, I would have wanted to slap their mouths shut. I couldn't help but smile. Even in that environment, she had managed to preserve her fresh, untainted spirit. Does mother treat you well? Mother is very good to me. She often makes snacks for me herself. After court, father also asks about my studies. When I can't answer, he just smiles and doesn't scold me. Only fourth sister and concubine Lu always pick at my faults. But then she leaned closer, her breath brushing my ear. I secretly sprinkled grass seeds into their tea and smeared a bit of honey on concubine Lu's chair. The way they jumped up in panic was truly satisfying. I finally laughed out loud. She laughed along with me. As our laughter gradually faded, she suddenly fell silent. In the darkness, her hand gently touched mine. Elder sister, I've told you so much about myself. What about you? Living with your real parents, are you happy? Outside the bed curtains, the oil lamp crackled once. I stared at the flickering shadows on the wall for a long time before slowly speaking. Here, I can sleep until the sun fills the windows. The fire in the kitchen warms my entire face. The old woman at the end of the alley brings a handful of vegetables she grew herself. The children from next door run over to beg for a piece of malt candy. My voice was very soft, as though I were only speaking to myself. There are no poetry books or rites and music, no morning and evening greetings. Only one meal, one bowl of soup, and genuine affection. Beside me came the sound of steady breathing. She had already fallen asleep. I closed my eyes. In the distance outside the courtyard, a few barks of dogs echoed, making the deep night feel even more tranquil. So this was how it felt. When you spoke of those ordinary things you once longed for but could never have, your heart would fill with a sensation so full it was almost bittersweet, yet endlessly warm. In the darkness, I opened my eyes wide. The shock on my face was quietly swallowed by the night. The doubt that had lingered at the bottom of my heart finally rose to the surface. Why doesn't she resent me? If not for that ridiculous swap all those years ago. The one who should have grown up amidst silks and satins, cherished in mother's palm, should have been her. Perhaps because we lacked that blood connection. Mother had always kept a layer of distance from me. If it had been her, she would have been loved completely, without reservation. Don't you hate me? I took your life away. The hand beneath the thin blanket clenched tightly. I was actually afraid of hearing that word. A warm hand reached over and gently covered my tense fist. Elder sister. Xianxia's voice was extremely soft. I should be the one thanking you. If not for you, how could I have lived so freely and happily for the past 15 years? She paused, as if choosing her words carefully. Only after returning to the Wen residence did I realize how wonderful those days with my real parents were. Don't think that I've been suffering. She suddenly moved closer, her breath tickling my ear. I'll tell you a secret, but you can't tell father or big brother. Most of the noodle shops and restaurants on this street actually belong to our family. I sucked in a sharp breath and nearly choked. Elder sister. She hurriedly sat up and patted my back. I only found out by secretly following mother. She visits every shop every few days, and the shopkeepers respectfully present the account books to her. She chattered on, recounting how she had pestered people when no one was home until she finally learned the story of the past. It turned out the Sun family ancestors had once been glorious, but when father was young, bad friends dragged him into gambling. Fields and shops were successively lost at the gambling table. Grandfather fell ill from anger, yet father still hadn't truly repented. Only after marrying mother did he temporarily restrain himself. But when mother was pregnant with big brother, father relapsed into his old habits. The day he lost the last piece of land, grandfather completely collapsed. Before he passed, he transferred all the properties father knew nothing about. Every single shop on this street, to mother's name. Later, mother came up with a plan. Xianxia's voice lowered. She secretly cooperated with the gambling house for one final game. Father staked everything in one last desperate gamble, lost everything, and even fell into debt. Only then did he truly wake up. She sighed softly. After that, mother brought father back to the countryside to hide. They stayed there for many years. Don't be fooled by how obedient father is now, running this small noodle shop. Every coin he earns is meant to fill the hole he dug back then. She lightly pressed a finger to my lips. Elder sister, you can't tell anyone about this. Then why not tell big brother? I couldn't help asking. Mother is afraid. Her voice sank. She fears big brother will learn the family once had such an inglorious past, and even more afraid that gambling is like a ghost. Once it clings to you, it's hard to shake off. Look at the family on the east side of the village. The son gambled until he went mad and even used his wife and daughter as stakes. She didn't continue. The night grew deeper. Outside the window, the occasional chirping of insects could be heard. Xianxia lay back down, her voice lighter. Although mother never mentions those things, she has never let us go hungry or lack clothes. Look, there's meat at every meal, and we even have bird's nest porridge every day. Although mother says it's low grade, I've tasted it. It's not much different from what we had in the Wen residence. I remained silent. Perhaps because I had been quiet for too long. Xianxia gently tugged my sleeve. Elder sister, you still haven't told me. These past days since coming here, have you been happy? I loosened my clenched fist. My palm was damp. Yes. The word came out carrying an unexpected steadiness. Only after returning did I truly understand. Chickens must be fed every day, the insects deep in the vegetable beds must be picked by hand, and the stream at the head of the village was where the most interesting news spread. She chuckled softly. Elder sister, you've grasped the essence so quickly. Hurry and tell me. What interesting gossip have you heard? We lowered our voices and continued talking, sentence after sentence. From the family on the east side marrying off their daughter in a grand ceremony, to the family on the west side having a new calf. Then we spoke of whose apple tree behind the mountain bore the sweetest fruit. I don't know at which story it happened, but our voices gradually blurred into steady breathing. When I woke up, bright sunlight had already flooded half the room. I had thought I would no longer have any entanglements with the Wen family. Who would have guessed that fourth sister and fifth sister would come looking for me, bringing along several of my former close friends? Eldest sister. Oh, what should we call you now? Fourth sister's words were still full of thorns. I stopped what I was doing and looked at her. What are you here for? She didn't answer, simply leading the group to sit down as though it were natural. Raising her voice, she declared, "Of course we came to support your business. Why aren't you greeting the guests?" Her finger traced the rim of the coarse earthenware bowl, one eyebrow raised. "These bowls and chopsticks, they aren't dirty, are they? What if we get sick?" Xianxia, my former closest friend, tugged nervously at fourth sister's sleeve before turning to me with a gentler tone. "Zhang Yu, don't mind her. We'll sit for a while and then leave." Father poked his head out of the kitchen with a simple, honest smile. "If they're Jiayu's friends, this meal is on me." His hands never stopped, kneading, pulling strands, dropping them into the pot with fluid grace. I carried the bowls out one by one. "Xianxia, try it. My father's skill is excellent." I handed her chopsticks. When Xianxia accepted them, worry clear in her eyes. "Why don't you attend classes at the academy anymore? Do you even need to ask?" Fourth sister cut in. "She's already finished learning everything she needs. Now that it's no longer useful, there's no point wasting effort. Always putting on airs." Fourth sister snorted softly. I smiled, choosing not to argue, and placed the last bowl of noodles in front of her. "I remember you don't eat green onions." My voice was gentle. "This bowl has none." She suddenly looked up, gripping her chopsticks tightly as she glared at me, momentarily speechless. I only smiled faintly. The fragrant steam rose as everyone ate in silence. After a while, fifth sister spoke first. "Elder sister, why is the broth so fresh and delicious? It's even better than what the head chef in the residence makes." "Of course it has to be delicious." The broth was simmered from an old hen for several hours. These past few days I've been experimenting with new broth recipes. Even the wonton filling was adjusted again and again. A bowl of noodles without green onions made fourth sister behave for once. After they finished eating, they hurriedly took their leave. Although father said there was no need to pay, they quietly left some silver pieces on the table. Did they think I was living in hardship? From that day on, familiar servants from various great families frequently came to buy noodles. Sometimes young manservants, sometimes maids, always taking the food away quickly. Recently, mother simply stayed at the shop to help me. We began trying to make fresh meat wontons. The broth used chicken as the base, while the filling was 2 parts fat and 8 parts lean, minced until sticky, then wrapped into plump dumplings. Once sprinkled with green onions, the hot aroma wafted all the way across the street. After many attempts, today we were finally confident enough to sell them. Whenever regular customers came, I would smile and recommend. "We've made new wontons. Would you like to try them?" Some people indeed nodded and ordered a bowl. When the shop closed in the evening, under the light of an oil lamp, my parents and I counted the copper coins one by one, polishing them until they shone and stacking them into small piles. "Father, mother, look." I pointed at the pile of money, eyes bright. "I can earn money now too." I took a deep breath and finally voiced the intention I had harbored for a long time. I want to seriously learn cooking. In the future, I want to open my own restaurant, not a tavern. Father fell silent for a moment. In this world, it's still difficult for a woman to appear in public doing business. "Yu." Mother interrupted him. "If you want to do it, then do it. Mother will always be your support." She pulled me aside, turning her back to father, and took out a small cloth bundle from inside her robes. Unwrapping it layer by layer revealed a 500 tael banknote. "Mother, this." She winked and lowered her voice. "Our family already owns properties on this street. Choose whichever shop space you like." My heart warmed. I almost laughed. "Mother, right now I only know how to make noodles and wrap wontons. Opening a proper restaurant is still far away. What is there to fear?" Her eyes were gentle yet resolute. "Mother will be with you. We'll learn slowly, step by step." My nose suddenly stung. I threw my arms around her and buried my face in her shoulder. "Mother, thank you." She gently patted my back as if comforting a child. "Silly girl, what are you thanking me for? We are family." When Wei Chuming heard I wanted to open a restaurant and was even researching menus, he volunteered to be my taste tester. At first I scolded him. He was the heir of the Marquis estate, yet he spent every day in my tiny little shop. What kind of image was that? He agreed with his mouth, saying he wouldn't come tomorrow. But the next morning, the moment the shop opened, he was already waiting in the morning mist, a few droplets of dew still clinging to his shoulders. Wei Chuming didn't just come to eat. He searched for rare ingredients, inquired about skilled chefs hidden throughout the city, and respectfully invited them over. "Wei Chuming, Once I deliberately put on a stern face. Tell me the truth. Did you force these masters to come? I've been wronged. He raised an eyebrow and turned to the newly invited soup master. Master, tell her. Did I sincerely invite you? The old chef hurriedly nodded, sweat beading on his forehead. Why, yes, I came of my own free will. Laughter rang out in the kitchen. Wei Chuming laughed along, his eyes shining brightly as he looked at me. Those days, while the chef stirred, fried, and cooked, I focused on simmering broths, and the pastry chef made pastries. Whoever he found, he invited one after another. Mother and I spent every day surrounded by kitchen smoke, yet our skills gradually took shape. When Big Brother returned from outside and tasted a table of dishes made by Mother and me, he praised us endlessly, saying they were no less impressive than those of many restaurants in the capital. There were several days when Wei Chuming didn't appear. I had just learned a new secret broth recipe and was eagerly waiting for him to try it. Instead of him, people from the Wen residence arrived. Xianxia came together with Mother, elder sister. Xianxia rushed over like a little sparrow, grabbing my hand and shaking it. Chuming said, you've learned many delicious dishes. Today I must eat until I'm satisfied. Seeing the anticipation in her eyes, I smiled and nodded. All right, today elder sister will cook for you. I turned and bowed slightly to Madame Wen according to etiquette. Madame Wen, wishing you peace. Xianxia helped Madame Wen sit at a table by the window. Madame Wen looked at me, her eyes gradually reddening. 15 years of affection, and now you won't even call me mother anymore. I lifted my gaze to my birth mother. She stood behind the counter and gave me a slight nod. Mother. I called softly. Yes. Madame Wen replied, her voice choking up. The coarse teacup on the table seemed unfamiliar to her. She took a sip, paused, then finally swallowed and quietly pushed the cup a little farther away. I came today because I wish to take you as my goddaughter. Wonderful. Then elder sister can return to the residence and live with me. Xianxia rejoiced first. Madame Wen turned to my mother. I wonder what Madame Sun thinks. I asked directly. Why the sudden decision? Madame Wen sighed softly and spoke slowly. The little Marquise has been making a fuss about breaking the engagement to marry you. The Marquise's wife refused, so he began a hunger strike in protest. It's already been several days. No wonder he hadn't shown up recently. Your elder brother sent a letter from the capital saying that if I take you as my goddaughter, it would neither violate the previous agreement nor stand in the way of Chuming's wishes. Madame Wen looked deeply into my eyes. What do you think? I lowered my gaze. Since I was 12 years old and betrothed to him, the innocent affection between us had quietly deepened over the years. I once thought that after my identity changed, he would naturally distance himself from me. But he didn't. When I said I wanted to open a restaurant, he searched for teachers and ingredients for me. When I mentioned I lacked a certain mountain mushroom, he went into the mountains alone to pick it. I raised my head to meet Madame Wen's gaze. I am willing. A smile finally appeared on Madame Wen's face. We will choose an auspicious day and hold the official adoption ceremony. I asked Xianxia to stay and accompany Madame Wen, then returned to the kitchen. The fire blazed, pots and pans clattered. Before long, several of my signature dishes were served, along with a pot of osmanthus wine I had personally brewed. As the food was placed on the table, the faint fragrance of wine drifted in the air. At first Madame Wen still seemed somewhat reserved, but after tasting a bite of stir-fried shrimp with jade vegetables, her eyes brightened and she gradually relaxed, chatting softly with my mother. Outside the window dusk fell. Inside the small house, warm lamplight glowed and laughter mingled together. In the end, I still returned to the position of eldest young miss of the Wen family. The one least pleased was naturally fourth sister. Humph. Don't think that returning means anything. In the end, you're still an outsider. She leaned against a pillar in the corridor, chin slightly raised, her words still barbed. I pretended not to hear and simply smiled at her. When you have time, come by the shop. I'll make you that bamboo shoot and chicken broth you used to like the most. Who wants it? She turned her face away, but the tips of her ears quietly flushed red. Eldest sister. Fifth sister secretly stepped closer, eyes sparkling. I want to eat sweet and sour pork ribs. Is that possible? Of course. I was older, so Xianxia called me elder sister, while fifth sister still kept the old habit of calling me eldest sister. The small courtyard in the residence remained exactly as before. Xianxia said, Mother has people clean it every day. I stayed at the Wen residence for a few days before hurriedly returning to the shop. Having tasted the flavor of freedom, The rigid rules of high-gate-deep compounds now felt suffocating. Wei Chuming's illness was also cured, and he resumed his daily visits to the shop. That day he stood beside the stove and suddenly called softly, "Jiang Yu." I turned around and saw the tips of his ears flushed red, yet his eyes were clear and resolute. "Now, I can finally say openly that I want to spend the rest of my life with you. You don't have to do this for me." I lowered my eyes, slowing the hands stirring the soup. "As long as it's you." His voice was very soft, "then anything is worth it." Xianxia appeared out of nowhere, giggling as she squeezed between us. All right. Chuming, stop talking. Look, elder sister's face is redder than the stove fire." Thanks to her interruption, the awkward moment was resolved. The wedding date was set for September next year, more than a year away. I poured my whole heart into preparing for the restaurant. Those who had previously promised to invest all delivered their banknotes. With both the Wen and Marquise families standing behind me, many matters became much easier. The new location I chose was closer to the city center, spacious, bright, and grand in atmosphere. I hired an old carpenter to divide the interior into several elegant, quiet private rooms. I wanted to open a refined, discreet restaurant mainly catering to respectable noble families. The first floor had a special corner dedicated to elegant pastimes, pitch, pot and archery. I also invited a skilled female musician who would play gentle melodies from behind a screen while guests dined. Naturally, I was no longer the only one in the kitchen. Both Wei Chuming and Big Brother, afraid I would overwork myself, insisted on hiring several highly skilled chefs. I only personally cooked when testing new dishes. On the opening day, the private rooms were fully booked early, and even the main hall had no empty seats. Although the support of the Wen and Marquise families could not be lacking, once word spread, we would never lack customers in the future. The dishes I had modified became the most popular. Big Brother from the Wen family, along with my parents, also came. After eating, he simply stayed to help me calculate the accounts. We were busy until deep into the night. Only after seeing off the last customer did the few of us gather in the largest private room. Money covered the entire table, silver pieces and copper coins stacked into small piles, gleaming under the candlelight. Our little sister is truly formidable. Big Brother gave me a thumbs up, grinning to show his white teeth. In the future, Kaku will follow you to make a living. You must support me for life. I laughed in reply. Of course. And me, Big Brother from the Wen family added gently. Xianxia hurriedly ran over and tugged my sleeve. Elder sister, and me too. In my heart, you're the best. My parents didn't say anything. They simply looked at me quietly, eyes filled with pride. I gazed around at those warm faces, some bound by blood, some found after being lost, and one whose love had never wavered. I thought that tonight's scene would likely remain in my heart for a very long time. Among the countless lights of the mortal world, to have a few sincere hearts illuminating one another was already the greatest blessing in life. The story ends here for now. If it touched your heart or left you thinking, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Please like, subscribe, and share Raccoon Tale to help more stories come to life. See you in the next tale.